Hey, it's Ray with Sober Without God. Welcome to Saturday Book Review. And we talk about things that deal with sobriety and also deconversion. But on Saturdays, it's all about book reviews. And today, I have a book that was just released this week, and it's called Etc. And the subtitle of it is called An Illustrated Guide to Latin Phrases, and it's written by Maia Chin and is illustrated by Marta Bertello. And this is a book I've been waiting for a while, since the beginning of the year, actually, because it fulfills one of the prompts in my reading challenge. And she's a new author, I believe. But the point of this book is to introduce you to Latin phrases that you might not have heard of. Of course, etc. means the rest. And she says in the beginning that she writes from her own viewpoint as an African and Chinese woman. And she compiled this book into a bunch of Latin phrases that people may or may not have heard about. And she wants to give the history of these Latin phrases from the time period that they came from, and also give a little bit of history about each Latin phrase. And she has a love of Latin that came to her later in life. And she just does a fantastic job with the background of each of these Latin phrases. The book itself is just pretty to look at on the outside. And here it is. It's about that thin. It took me a day, not even a day to read it, because it on one side of the page, you'll see that it will have the Latin phrase over here that it deals with. Can't really see that light, but it has the Latin phrase on this side, and it has the history of the Latin phrase. And over here on the other side, it has a beautifully illustrated picture to go along with the Latin phrase. So over here you have, and she does not, interestingly enough, she says she doesn't include the pronunciation because Latin, she says, is a dead language, and people argue about the right way to say the Latin word. So if you're expecting a pronunciation guide, you are up the creek. But you don't need it, because this is just for some fun reading. I want to tell you, first off, I want to tell you this would be a great gift for that person in your life who you don't know who to buy for, and they're really smart and they think they know everything, or someone who's like a bookworm, or who is just a quirky little shopper. And this is one of those books that you leave out, and you leave out in your house, and you leave it sitting somewhere where you just need something to pick up and mindlessly go through a couple of pages at a time, and don't need to go through the whole thing. She recommends that you read it from cover to cover because it kind of carries on, but you can also read it as a few pages as a standalone as well. It is divided up into groups. The sections are literature. That's 1. 2 is love, friendship, and family. 3 is mythology. 4 is military and power. And 5 is culture and philosophy. And something I learned about the Roman Empire that I don't think I'd ever really paid attention to before is that it was so male dominated that men didn't really think a lot about love. And so it was a big deal when men started writing poetry about love. And that, of course, the women's viewpoint was often marginalized. And she does a great job of talking about gender roles, and she does a good job of bringing women's voices to the forefront, and talking about LGBTQ ideas in this book as well. So it's really a book for just about anyone in your life. One of the passages that I liked, so I'll point that out. This passage here was called Sed Picasse Uvat. Didn't pronounce it right. That's okay, because it's a dead language. But the passage means, but it is exciting to sin, is it not? And here's the lovely illustration. Hopefully I can get a good angle on it. But it tells the story of a woman who was trying to keep herself virtuous, and it goes into detail about this woman and her story and her struggle in Rome, and the man that she was in love with, and how he rejected her, and she was still in love with him regardless, and she was sick about it. But she's an excellent storyteller. Maia Chin is an excellent storyteller, and even when she goes over things that you've heard, phrases that you've heard before, she brings a light to them that maybe you've never thought about before. Memento Mori is in here, and that's one. Of course, you're like, people love talking about Memento Mori these days, especially um, if they're guys in the gym. They got it tattooed on their back, Anyway, whatever. But she talks about the common usage of it and also what the original Latin use was for it. Highly recommend this book. 5 out of 5 stars. You will not be disappointed. Like I said, definitely you will learn something, and you will be inspired, and you will love having this book around to show and for people just to pick up in your house and spend a few minutes with, just learning about ancient Rome. But pick this book up, just came out, etc. Once again, highly recommend. I hope you have